understand that part, but 4 hours every day for over like 10 years?
Yeah.
Wow. So maybe that's a requirement to become an agent in FBI that you only can sleep for 4 hours every day. If you cannot make it, you cannot make like
I
eight.
guess it depends on your body if your body can function with that amount of sleep or whether it gets used to
Uh-huh.
working with that amount. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like to me at least Trump it doesn't sleep. He had a few meetings today. 3 o'clock in the morning, he went to White House, and then in the early morning he got up and then started work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you just shared with me that he actually did not get a lot of sleep at Air Force One, even though they have a bedroom. He just,
That comes from the reporters. They're
uh-huh.
saying that they wish he would sleep. They wish he would use the bedroom more and, even get 4 or 5 hours. And they said instead he's, you know,
Because,
running around on the plane, talking to everybody, making phone calls, um, conducting presidential business
uh-huh,
or political business, but in any event, conducting business
uh-huh.
uh, instead of shutting it off and going to bed.
Like the reporters are tired, not him.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So let's start. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Shaya's Forum. Today is October 14th. Here's my dear friend Tom. Tom, how are you?
I'm fine. Hello, everybody.
Hey Tom, I'm so happy. Yeah, so happy. You can see that I just cannot stop smile because of yesterday. We have the significant historical agreement. I'm so happy for people from Middle East, from Gaza and Israel. I'm just so happy for them. A peace finally come, and then it's a big day. Thank you. Um, yeah, so before we start, so I have lots of questions regarding the peace agreement. And before we start, I'd like to introduce to my audience. Tom worked in FBI for over 30 years, and he worked as assistant director of FBI for 5 years, and he's retired now. Again, thank you so much to come to our podcast.
Thank you.
Um, sure, Tom. I do have lots of questions because you've been the FBI. You're the head of FBI, right? At
No,
Middle East at
no, my last 5 years as an assistant director, I was head of international operations.
right. And you
That
went
division.
to
But earlier than that, I had run field divisions.
oh, television.
I ran the organized crime program worldwide for years. So I had been in other programs as I worked my way up the chain of command.
Right. So yeah, when you see that they signed the agreement yesterday, what do you feel?
Well, first of all, very worried that Hamas might still try to find a way, or that it might still fail somehow,
Uh-huh.
or something. So I guess,
Mhm.
until the living hostages were actually let out,
Mhm.
I had my fingers crossed that that would happen, but I didn't know. I wasn't convinced that it would happen until it
Mhm.
did,
Right. Right.
because of not being able to trust Hamas as a terrorist organization.
Mhm.
Once the living hostages were out,
Mhm.
then I felt a lot better. Now I know they're still trying to get them to release the bodies of the hostages that didn't make it,
Right.
but to me, that's not quite it is to the families, but it's not quite as important
Mhm.
as the living hostages being out finally.
Right. 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 Yeah, I totally agree with you. When I still waiting for the hostages, I just yeah, I cannot go to sleep. It's I don't know what's gonna happen. So
I
when
think
I
they're out now, but they're being protected to protect their identities and their locations and for their own safety. But according to the Israeli government and the families of the hostages, they are out.
right, right. Well, why they are in Israel right now? So why they need to protect by hiding their location and everything?
Yeah, because they're still, there could be Hamas sympathizers still free in Israel that could do something.
Whoa. Well,
So yeah, I think there's concern on the part of the Israelis for their security at the moment.
Right, right, right. So, well, there are so many reporters there, and then the whole world is just so happy for them to come back to their family. And we saw that Israel also released all of nearly 2,000 Palestinians that to Gaza. So we have 20 versus 2,000. So these 2,000 are soldiers or are they civilians? Who are they?
All
This,
of the above, soldiers, terrorists,
okay,
some of them have been convicted in court in Israel of murder and sentenced to either life or long sentences.
okay.
But yeah, many of them are criminals that have committed capital crimes,
Hmm.
which would be like murder,
So they're not,
terrorist attacks
uh-huh.
over the years. So
Oh, okay, okay.
it's not like they were just gathered up, in the last couple of months
Oh, okay. I see. So 20 versus 2,000. Why Israel agree to release them all?
because they wanted the 20 so bad. That was the deal. So if they're going to
Hmm.
make a deal with Hamas,
Hmm.
especially the follow-ups to this original deal,
Hmm.
the claims that Hamas has agreed to basically disarm after this and not be a warlike terrorist group. We'll see that too. But I
Okay.
think in the meantime, the first step to show good faith on their part was
Mhm.
release the 20 living hostages.
Right, right, right. So why this peace agreement is so significant? What
Because
do you think?
it seemed like it would never happen, like it
Mm-hmm,
couldn't happen,
mm-hmm,
that Hamas would hold these hostages uh, for further bargaining, and it seems like they've already made a pretty good deal, as you mentioned,
mm-hmm,
getting 2,500 Palestinian prisoners released from jails in
mm-hmm,
exchange for the 20 hostages. So
right. Yeah, we have so many different American presidents. Only President Trump make this happen. So what's your opinion? Why did President Trump bring the peace here?
because in the long run, I think Hamas was afraid of him and what he might do. And I think that the president has sent signals in the meantime that he'll do whatever it takes.
Mm-hmm,
Part of that to convince them that it was serious was the attack on Iran
mm-hmm,
and the bombing of their nuclear facility in Iran
mm-hmm,
after he said, close it down or I'm gonna do it. And they didn't listen or they thought he was bluffing and or they're used to, the 4 years of dealing with the Biden administration, which was completely empty and bluffing all the time.
mm-hmm,
Blinken and the team that Biden had that was so worthless.
mm-hmm,
And I think all of a sudden Trump comes in and says, I'm not Biden.
mm-hmm.
And if you think I am, hang on. And so I think that the attack on the Iranian mountain with the nuclear facilities at the bottom of it,
It's the
I think it
key.
was a final message to Hamas. Not only that, but many of the leaders of Hamas were living like kings in Qatar,
Mm-hmm,
living in Doha and some of these other cities,
mm-hmm,
just like royalty.
mm-hmm,
And he attacked that, he know that the Israelis were conducting bombings on hotels in Doha, Qatar. And
mm-hmm.
they're looking at it like, it's not worth it. They're not going to be able to stay safe wherever they go.
Mm. Yeah, I see. Yeah, great. So, oh, what do you think that what are the chances that this agreement will be implemented smoothly? I mean, this is the first phase, right? And we're gonna have second phase, third phase, and then what do you think? Are they gonna follow the order or follow the agreement, or what is your predict for Hamas?
Uh, I'm hopeful that they will, but I'm not 100% convinced until I see each step happen
Mm-hmm.
and be concluded successfully.
Uh-huh.
Still don't trust them. Still don't. you know, but again, I think that if it was anybody else but Trump in the White House, I
Hmm.
think they might, they might already be breaking it. But I think that they realize, he'll come and get them.
So they're gonna know how to behave, at least under Trump.
I think
Yeah, so hopefully. And then so why is the participation of Arabic countries important? So we see so many Arabic countries and they come together yesterday and they praise Trump, his effort to bring the peace to Middle East. So why are participation of these countries are very important?
because before Hamas attacked Israel on
Hmm.
October 7th,
Hmm.
there were the US and those countries were very close to signing the Abraham Accords, peace
Hmm.
agreements. And for most of those countries, it would have made them, financially better off than they were.
Hmm.
And in some cases, very, very well off.
Hmm.
And they knew that in order to have that, it was going to take peace.
Hmm.
And when the attack happened over Israel by Hamas, that
Hmm.
put everything on hold. And Israel and Saudi Arabia were about to sign an agreement when
Hmm.
that attack happened.
Hmm.
So those are two, leading countries. Well, obviously, Saudi Arabia is one of the leading countries of the Arab world
Hmm.
and Muslim. And if they're getting ready to have a peace agreement with Israel and the Abraham Accords are going to be signed and implemented, all those countries are going to not just have peace, they're going to become wealthy.
Hmm. You're right.
And Hamas sabotaged that. And they may have done it on purpose. They may have had Iran
Hmm.
push them into the attack
Hmm.
to to basically sabotage any peace agreements between Israel and all these countries.
Hmm.
And I think that the countries that were all represented in the photo ops that you've had in the last couple of days in
Hmm.
Tel Aviv, I think that's a good indication for them. They wanted peace. They want this to go back to where they can do business
Hmm.
with Israel and
It's
with the United States.
right. That's very important. Now, United States have their saying or their role in Gaza. So,
Right.
who is the most beneficiary of the agreement? Gaza people, Israel, Palestine. Who are the who benefit from it?
Well, if the agreement works out, all of the above.
Mhm.
Obviously, the people, the Palestinians, are basically, if you look at the pictures of Gaza City and the other parts of
It's gone.
Gaza,
Right.
it looks like the pictures of Berlin the
Right.
day that World War II ended.
Yeah.
Everything's demolished. Now, looking at the cities of Europe that were pretty much 90% destroyed in
Hmm.
World War II, it didn't take too long, especially with U.S. assistance under the Marshall Plan,
Hmm.
a plan, started by the Secretary George Marshall at the time, who
Hmm.
became Secretary of State. Under that plan, those cities have been rebuilt
Hmm.
and they're beautiful. You can go to any of them today
Hmm.
and you'll see some of the monuments of the war. You'll see certain places that may not have been rebuilt, but for the most part, those cities are beautiful.
Hmm.
So if you look at those cities then and now, and you compare that to Gaza now, the people in Gaza, that could be them. That could happen. And especially, the location of Gaza, um, and I've been to Israel a couple times, those that coastline is right on Mediterranean Sea.
Right.
So they could, with enough investments and with peace, they could turn Gaza into Fort Lauderdale.
Oh yeah.
With beach resorts and hotels and companies and you name it, a
Right.
tourist industry. They could have everything there if they
Hmm.
had peace
Hmm. Exactly.
and and the type of financial backing that the US has promised and other countries have promised
Hmm.
to exploit the tremendous location, the weather, everything about that would be very beneficial for investing.
Hmm. Right. So it's just like a picture that in front of people in Gaza and in Israel as well, that we will and we could have a beautiful, happy, and a perspective life. And why we just have the war. Let's stop it
Yeah,
and just, yeah, make our life better.
not just Israel, but you go to Beirut, Lebanon, same thing. Lebanon is right on the Mediterranean Sea. I've
Mhm.
been there a couple of times, and when you drive down the highway along the water, along the ocean, you
Right,
think this place is beautiful. And
right.
as we're driving, we're going past locations that have had bombings and terrorist attacks and all kinds of that kind of warfare. And the same thing. If Lebanon has a certain degree of peace, and if Israel, those countries along the water there
Mhm.
are just, they could be beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely can have a good life if they stop fight each other.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So I noticed that yesterday Trump he actually pleading for Bibi. He said, "Can you just pardon him?" And what do you think it might be his final outcome, Bibi Netanyahu?
Well, I think for now, I think he'll be in place, and Trump is trying to convince the government of Israel
Right.
to leave him alone for a while. Let
Yep.
him, establish peace, let him
Uh,
hold the country together, things like that.
mhm,
But otherwise, Bibi knows that if he loses Trump's support, he could probably lose his freedom and get prosecuted and go to jail for corruption. So
mhm.
meantime, he's been, I would put it, he's been obedient to Trump's wishes over
Ah,
the last, year or two, especially.
mhm,
And I think that that's something that, Trump, I think that's what's convinced also Hamas
mhm,
to make an agreement with Trump, that if Trump withdraws his support, they could be back in full scale war again. And
mhm,
Netanyahu, I think everybody in Israel and their legislature, the Knesset, and
mhm,
others pretty much realize that support for Netanyahu right now by the United States means support for Israel.
mhm, yeah,
And
right.
if that gets withdrawn, and Trump is holding it all together, and I think that's what a lot of people in the Middle East, especially the Arab countries, they're
Mhm,
looking at this going, Trump is benefiting them tremendously
right.
because he's got Netanyahu on a leash. And so I think that's what's holding it together at the moment. Now we'll see how long that lasts and where it goes. But
Mhm,
but right now, so a lot of the even in the US, the AOCs and the others
mhm,
that were so critical of Trump and showing their support to Palestine and all Palestinians and all of that. You haven't
mhm,
heard much of them right
mhm.
now.
Yeah,
They've been very
exactly.
quiet.
Mhm. Yeah, so on the agreement on Gaza, we can have a word new Gaza, right? So gonna have a good, happy security and the perspective Gaza. So what is the rule of American or of our country there? Are we the ruler or we are the police there or we are above all?
Well, I think we're talking about at least being, peacekeepers,
Okay.
sending some American troops into the area and supporting Israel's IDF and some of that to try to
Hmm.
keep peace long enough for this to hold together.
Hmm.
But the peace is going to be very important there. And if you again you see the rubble, you see the cities and the buildings,
Hmm.
high-rise buildings knocked to the ground and big piles of stone and rubble and all of that. It's
Hmm.
going to take a lot of
Oh.
construction, deconstruction effort to clean that up and then
Hmm.
start construction on the new developments. So I think that we'll have to see what's going to happen. But I
Hmm.
think the uh, the people there and Israel and the neighboring countries are more or less supporting Trump that if anybody can do it, he can do it.
Right.
And for now, give support, don't obstruct it, don't fight it, and they'll benefit. these
Mm-hmm.
countries aren't doing very well either, economically and from a security standpoint. So the fact that Trump has come in and basically, in a way, laid down the law on them. Stop the fighting, stop the killing, stop the terrorism,
Mm-hmm.
just stop.
Yeah, right, right,
And
right.
we'll help you rebuild. And again, it's very similar to the model of World War II.
Mm-hmm.
George C. Marshall
Mm-hmm.
declared the Marshall Plan, that
Mm-hmm.
the U.S. was going to immediately, at the conclusion of World War II, in May, in at least in Europe, May of 1945,
Mm-hmm.
that the U.S. was going to provide much support, let's say, for the rebuilding of Europe.
Right.
And much of the credit for the success of those European countries came because the U.S. supported them rebuilding.
Right, right. Well, thank you for pointing out that very important point, which is on World War II. It's American used the Marshall Plan to rebuild
Yeah.
Europe. And now, 80 years later, again, it's American to use the Trump plan to rebuild the Middle East. So why always our country? I'm
Well,
surprised at that, but why always us?
because the U.S. can, because the U.S. has the resources to
Mhm.
be able to come in and support those kind of countries and do rebuilding after war or hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes. That yes, and I think part of that is the U.S. being basically a Judeo-Christian nation. And so the Christianity, that aspect of the U.S. leads to the generosity to
Mhm.
provide the support, provide the money, provide equipment,
Mhm.
provide people to
Mhm.
help these unfortunate countries
Mhm.
rebuild.
Right, right. Well, actually, I totally agree with that, but I remember the USAID, they have the mission statement, and they said that we have the duty for the world, and we help the other
But
people.
what they said, the USAID was a lie. It was run by the CIA. And much of what they did was not benefiting the US or the countries that they claimed it was benefiting. So
Mhm.
they were using their grant money and everything to basically subvert the governments of all these countries into doing what the CIA wanted them to do. And, I had my dealings on many occasions with USAID
Mhm.
overseas, and
Good.
they were not the benevolent, give everybody a. They were not implementing the Marshall Plan. I'll put it
Mm.
that
Yeah, this is a good
way.
point. Yeah, so well, talking about the US, just like our the foreign people, they're just saying US are doing good, US are doing bad, blah blah blah. But maybe we should mention when we talk about US, there are two kind of US. One is Republican US, and the other one is a leftist US. Totally different policy, totally different standard of ethical, right?
Yeah.
Fair to put that way. Yeah. So um, yesterday, I'm just thinking about UN. See, Trump administration have make a peace deal for 8 wars so far for 9 months. So is there any I'm just thinking any reason that UN still need to be there? This is UN's job, right? UN is supposed to be the peacemaker to do something like what US is doing now.
Yeah. Well, much of what the UN does is worthless.
Yeah,
So,
right.
so when you have, again, the US taking the lead or Trump himself taking the lead to end wars, that they should have been involved. That was why they were created,
Yeah,
to prevent war or
right,
help solve wars once they're established. And
right.
you see none of that. You
Mm-hmm.
see, their representatives in New York living large and attending banquets and parties and all this stuff, and not really benefiting the world like
Mm-hmm.
they say they were supposed to.
Mm-hmm. Right. So do you think it's necessary for UN still there? Or we maybe we don't need the UN if American can deal with that.
Yeah, I had dealings with the UN also around the world, and
What do you feel?
it was my experience that the people I dealt with were worthless. So,
Yeah, yeah,
especially for Americans have a certain arrogance and a certain attitude that if you don't do something, we're going to do it. We're
right.
going to make peace. We're going
Yeah.
to rebuild. We're going
Mm-hmm.
to do whatever it takes.
Mm-hmm.
And and here's the UN standing by and doing nothing, and some of these other countries, uh, join the UN and doesn't help. They don't do what they're supposed to do. Much
Mm-hmm.
like NATO doesn't do what it's supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So so I think, yeah, and I think what Trump has done uh, has pretty much shown the world the U.S. is indispensable.
Yep.
When the U.S. is doing what it should do,
Mm-hmm.
as a benevolent Judeo-Christian nation, when it uses its moral authority to do the right thing,
Yeah.
nobody can beat that.
Yep. I agree. I agree.
And
Um,
to me, that's what serves as the beacon
mm-hmm.
for all the people that have come from all over the world. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not talking about the illegals across the Biden's open border, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about the people from nations everywhere that went to a lot of trouble
Mm-hmm.
to come in and do it right, to go through all of the steps and procedures and requirements
Mm-hmm.
um, that you went through, that my wife went through, that my grandparents went through,
Right.
um, that all came here the right way and did the difficult steps
Mm-hmm.
because they wanted to be Americans,
Yeah.
because of the respect for this country, the American dream, all of it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
that's
So
that's unprecedented to have that.
sure, sure. So yeah, thank you for saying that. Yesterday I'm so proud of our president
All
and to
right.
be American. This is the country that I love dearly. It's back. It's back. This is my country. This is my president. Yeah, so it's what a moment. What a
Yeah, and
moment.
even after the so-called feud between Trump and Elon Musk, over the last couple of weeks, Elon Musk made that statement. He's my
Mhm.
president,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
spite of all the other, ideas. So I think there's a lot of people that really understand what the country represents and what the leadership should represent. The
Right.
elected officials of this country, why we need open and fair elections, why
Mhm.
we need a fair and honest media
Mhm.
to tell the people accurately what's going on, who the right people are, so that they can choose and elect them and uh, not prevent other losers to get into office. And I think that, we still have a long way to go with that.
Oh yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
look at a city like New York City about to elect Mandami. That's unbelievable. He has no no good qualification that says here's a guy that should be mayor.
I just post on X, just argue the people from New York. Do yourself a favor.
Yeah.
Don't vote him. It's gonna be a big, huge mistake if you do
Well,
so.
look at all of these big blue Democratic cities. Same
I
thing.
I know.
Chicago or LA or San Francisco and now, Boston with, they elect these liberal
Crazy.
people
Yeah.
into these positions, then wonder why everything falls apart.
What can you say? What can you say? It's so obvious. I don't know, some people just maybe just like you said, they just don't care. Once they vote for Democrats, they vote for Democrats forever and not pay attention on what they're doing. They don't care. But I think these kind of people are not the majority. It's a minority. It should not be like 50% people, maybe 20%, 10%, 30%, right?
The
Um,
problem is they're the majority of the voters in those cities.
Right.
That's where the problem is.
Right. And yeah, talking about media, before I ask you another question, did you see the George, I forgot his name, last name, George from ABC. He actually interviewed JD Vance and he cut
Uh,
oh, you see that, right?
Stephanopoulos,
Oh,
yeah,
I cannot believe it. So
yep.
they're just doing that. I'm just thinking that we should have some kind of rule that when a media behave like that, they should lost their lesson. You
Well,
cannot.
the idea is that the people will stop watching them because they're dishonest,
Mhm.
and and eventually they won't be able to keep their jobs doing that. So we'll
Hopefully,
see. We'll see if that happens.
and
Stephanopoulos is already. That's why Trump joking about how much money he received from
uh-huh.
Stephanopoulos paying him and some of the other lawsuits that he's filed because they're dishonest.
Right,
Here's
right.
Stephanopoulos that was reporting that Trump was convicted of rape. He wasn't. The crime that he was convicted of was, the woman that made the accusations against him
Okay.
for what he did 30 years ago couldn't remember where, when, find any other evidence or support, and somehow she wins a civil lawsuit where Trump had to pay her money just because she sued him, but he was not convicted of rape.
It's not a lawsuit. It's just like a clown show.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then oh, also this morning, Pete Hexas just post that I think he is not allowed AP, I guess, to get into the DOW. And then AP, CNN, CNBC get together said, no, we'll not follow your policy. We have the freedom of speech, A1. And so Pete Hexas said, okay, so then you cannot come into the Department of War. So these medias think they're above the law or they want to do whatever they want. People have to agree with them.
Oh, that's
They,
what they think. That's what they're hoping.
yeah, they treat themselves like a king. Um, So I noticed that Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, and even Joe Biden praised President Trump for the peace deal. Do you surprised about that?
Not really, but I laugh at Biden's praise where he basically said he worked diligently to for this process. And what he made it sound like was that he really did it and Trump just
Well,
wiped up at the end, swept up at the end and gets the credit. But nevertheless, some people like Clinton realized what it took to do that and others to go ahead and praise him.
right, right. And talk about Obama. I see the news from yesterday that 20 CIA and FBI agent has just confirmed that Barack Obama personally worked with former FBI, no, CIA director John Brennan to create the fake rush hooks and then hide the entire operation inside classified CIA wallet for nearly a decade. So is this criminal? Yes. So when can we see the arrest? I cannot wait for that.
I think right now that I don't know that the Department of Justice is working toward the arrest of Obama yet.
That's
So I'm not sure what they're doing or how far they've gotten with a case against Obama. Now, all these other characters from Comey to Brennan to Clapper, many of those, yeah, I think they're going to bring prosecution against all of them for sure. And then maybe the idea is when they put the pressure on them, uh, that they'll turn around and say, look, we didn't want to change the report at that time. Obama made us do it. You know, Obama was behind declaring,
uh-huh.
the activities that the Russia hoax involved and some of that stuff. So that may be, I don't know. We'll see how far that gets.
Yeah, so it because it's very clear right now that Obama is not only know the things, he actually manufactures the the lies and weaponize the intelligence and bear the evidence to protect themselves. Every single one of it is a felony, if
Yeah,
not treason, right? So,
yeah.
do you think it might happen that our former president has been arrested? I think he's finished. If
Well, I
this is
think reputation is finished. I think his political influence will be finished and all of that. But
mm,
whether that means they'll be actually bringing a prosecution against him, I don't know. I'm more skeptical of that.
because it's never happened before,
Yeah, because of the precedent Trump just went through being a former president and being prosecuted. And I think that a lot of people are trying to say, that that's a bad policy to get into where every president gets prosecuted as soon as he's out of office. Now, in Obama's case, he completely deserves it. He's earned it. But
right?
but we'll
It's
see. We'll see. Trump during the first election, the first administration, when he talked about Hillary and you should be in jail and all of that.
mm,
And then after all of that, he didn't prosecute Hillary. He let her off the hook.
mhm,
And just like in the monster movies, she comes back out of the shadows to haunt him ever
mhm,
since. So I think that in one sense, Trump learned a lesson. Don't let these people get off the hook because they'll
right.
come back later.
Mhm.
But, on the other hand, with him having been a victim of their coming after him, we'll see. We'll see where it goes from here.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, glad you mentioned about Hillary Clinton's case. But I think Obama is more serious than Hillary
Oh,
Clinton
absolutely.
because
Sure.
yeah, he was the president of the United States. And then if you see the platform like X, you see more and more people are very, very angry to what Obama did to President Trump, to this country. And more people realize that Obama is like a bad actor, a bad person behind the whole things. So so we'll see. Yeah. And also, President Trump announced there is another strike on has been carried out, taking out six male terrorism off the coast of Venezuela. So this is the third time or the fourth time. So every time it's about four people die, six people die, five people die. So it looks to me they're not seem to be very large in the
Well,
scale.
these are relatively small boats. So,
Right, right.
what they're doing is blowing up the boat and everybody on it dies.
Uh-huh.
So these are not large ships or,
Uh-huh.
like aircraft carriers or destroyers or cruisers. These are just
Small.
small boats that can be operated,
Right.
uh, by a handful of people.
Right. So I'm just thinking that if this is like it's very small scale, so how we're talking about so many the drugs from Venezuela to US. What is the main transportation? And these are not main transportation because it's too small. So how
If you
they
look at, how lethal fentanyl is, they could put enough fentanyl in a canoe to
oh,
kill half of the United States. So I
okay,
think I think it doesn't have to be the big, huge boats. Now, when you're talking marijuana, then you
okay,
need all the bulk
that's
of
a big
marijuana or some of the plant-based drugs like that.
right, right.
The chemical drugs, whether it's cocaine or LSD or any of those, they're
Mm,
not as lethal. So it's not quite as urgent, let's say. But fentanyl is so deadly
right,
and so concentrated that yes, that boat could kill tens of thousands of people from
right.
whatever's on that boat.
Right. Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. So they mainly they use the water to transport these drug into the US, not on the land.
Well, there's
Normal,
no land directly, from Venezuela to
right.
the United States.
They have to
So
pass
they have
meth.
to put it on a boat or an airplane.
Oh, I see.
And and airplanes coming out of Caracas are going to be highly scrutinized. Or
Mhm.
if they take connecting routes from Caracas to,
Right,
Mexico City, let's say, and then up to the United States,
right.
uh, they're going to get scrutinized at the airport. They're going to get searched more heavily.
Mhm.
And for the traffickers, if they lose an airplane, they're losing millions of dollars with that. These boats are, cheap.
Mhm.
They
That's
can
right.
afford to lose the boats and they could care less about losing 4 or 5 people.
Right, right. And then people are waiting for see what's the future of Maduro. And what do you think? The American will arrest him or just let him be?
They
Or
might. We went into Panama and got Noriega.
right.
So that could happen. We could, they're maybe setting it up enough to get the people of Venezuela and the rest of the world to know here's how bad this guy is. And
Hmm.
if the people of Venezuela don't stop him, at some point we might have to.
Hmm. Yeah, we'll see. People are, like to see what happened there. And talk about Venezuela. Very interesting story is on a lady from Venezuela got Nobel Peace Prize, and she immediately said she like to give this award to President Trump and people
Yeah,
of.
it's interesting. She said that, and Putin himself said Trump deserved it, and I've heard since this woman got it, and since there's been such a backlash that a lot of people are already saying, okay, next year give it to Trump, period. You
Hmm.
know,
Right.
so he may still get it. We'll see.
Yeah, I think he should. I think he should.
Yeah.
And yeah, and also let's see what I have some. Oh yeah, the other I think is very important thing is today is the birthday of Charlie Kirk. That's why I wear red. Yeah, it's just like a way to remembering him.
Yeah, he would have
And
been 32 today. Yeah.
he's such a young.
Now, while we're doing this, I think at this exact time, his wife, his widow, is receiving the Medal of Freedom at the White House from President Trump.
Right, right, right. Yeah, we'll take a look at that. And then I see that Turning Point USA just post that if you remember Charlie Cook, you can do 31 things. It's really touching. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, uh, yeah, he's a great, great, great guy and a treasure of our nation. But I believe that we have more and more young people will stand up, will telling the truth, will fight, and then this is America, and it's a miracle land.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then what else you want to mention to our audience for this week for the
Well,
still in it some other things?
yeah, yeah. In a way, it's an important week. You have the Navy celebrating its 250th anniversary. The
Hmm.
Army celebrated a couple months ago.
Hmm.
And, for the Navy, we look back on, the things that the activities that they were in, in the Marine Corps hymn, you hear from the shores of Montezuma, that what they've been involved in, starting really during President Jefferson's term of
Hmm.
being sent into Mexico or being sent into to free Americans that had been captured by pirates in the Mediterranean.
Hmm.
In Tripoli, Libya, many of them were being held.
Hmm.
And, the United States Marines are a division of the Navy. They're
Hmm.
part of the United States Navy.
Hmm.
And so here, even back then, 250 years ago, we're sending the Navy to go after pirates in the Mediterranean Sea or, other wars that we fought
Hmm.
over the years since then.
Hmm.
So I think that, that's worth considering that you have more respect for the military now than we've had for a long, long time.
Hmm. Right. Well, thank you. Thank you for mentioning that. It's yeah, this is a long history, actually. This is
Yeah.
American spirit. It's always there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And then um For the Turning Point USA, good news is they're gonna start their chapters at
Excuse me.
churches. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Right.
they're gonna start the chapters at churches. So yeah, you mentioned that our belief plays a big role when we talk about the international affairs. That's why that people look upon Americans.
Agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. I cannot wait to translate that into Chinese. And then, yeah, people are just waiting for that. I saw that so many people post on X for yesterday, and they understand how important that is.
In your opinion, what's the percentage that want to see the English version that we're doing now compared to the Chinese version that you put out a couple hours from now?
Um,
What's the percentage of Chinese speaking or English speaking
Compare,
viewers?
say, if we have 500 here in English, we're probably going to have 3,000 in Chinese.
Okay.
Most of my audience are Chinese. So
Okay.
yeah, that's why. But they're just waiting for help. I saw some audience said, "Okay, I'm gonna waiting for the Chinese version." I can understand parts of that. Waiting for the Chinese version, but I do believe we have some English speaking audience as well, but not as much as Chinese audience from all over the world.
Yeah, recently I've met some people who started watching it after I told them about the
Uh-huh.
podcast, and
Uh,
some of them are from China,
uh-huh.
and now later have come back and said they're watching it every week. They watch all these episodes,
Mm-hmm.
actually watch both because the English
Oh,
version helps them improve their English, but they also watch the Chinese just to help understand the content.
that's
So I'm
great.
really happy with that to have friends of mine tell me how much they appreciate
Right.
watching the versions of this podcast.
Right. We do have the audience just left in Chinese that they really appreciate your effort. And then, yeah, telling the story, telling you what your analyst for the fairs. It's so important to them to understand American, to understand the international the stories or news. So really appreciate it.
Well, to
And
me, it's very important because here they've come to the United States. They didn't have to. They could have gone to Australia or Europe or other places, Canada, and they come here to the US.
Mhm.
And and I try to then, if there's a chance to explain a little extra history lesson in what I say, I do that. I appreciate that they watch it to get that, to want to learn more about American history, American culture, or policies, or why we do some of the things we do that sometimes I don't even know why we do it, but but it's hard to
Sometimes.
explain. But I
Uh-huh.
appreciate when people come to me and say, I started watching the podcast and I love to watch it. I learn a lot.
Mhm.
It's really meant a lot to me. Well, that means even more to me that they cite that as an educational opportunity and appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Even we do not, our first language is different. Yours is English, we're Chinese, the first language, but our heart are connected. We
Right.
know, and
Right.
thank you so much, yeah, for spending your time to explain the American history that we hold dearly, and we're so proud of that.
Well, and a lot of it, most of my wife's friends, some are mutual friends of you and me,
Mhm.
um, that they started with asking me to join you on this podcast, asking you to put me on it a
Right.
year and a half ago or more.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to talk to people that wouldn't get this anywhere else. They would never get it on our mainstream media.
Right.
And in some cases, they even if they watched podcasts, whether it's Tucker Carlson or Joe Rogan or whoever it might be, if English isn't your first language, that would be hard to understand.
Yeah. And
I
some
have friends of mine who only speak English and they have a hard time understanding, ask me to explain some of the things they hear. on English speaking podcasts.
Mhm.
So I understand that some of these topics are complicated, diverse, unusual, and and I'm a historian by nature, so I appreciate the chance to expand
Right,
why these policies or why things exist the way they do, why we're doing the things, like explaining the Marshall Plan after World War II, and
right,
then seeing that we're going to need that now in Gaza.
right.
The
Exactly.
Israelis are going to need this in Gaza.
Exactly.
And for the United States, it's like business as usual. We've done this before all over the world, and
Hmm.
we can help do it again. So I think that for me to share that there's a reason why the U.S. does these things as a matter of policy, as a matter of goodwill to
Hmm.
these countries to help rebuild them.
Hmm.
So we'll be strong and we'll be free and we'll appreciate the freedom that they have with the assistance of the U.S.
Exactly, exactly. And I really appreciate that from your experience, a very extraordinary experience to explain the history and the current affair and make us understand America more at different level. And I personally thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity for me to interview you to learn your insight and also to learn English and history more in order to translate that. I learned a lot from you. Thank you so much, Tom.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that.
Sure. All right. Wow. 53 minutes, almost 1 hour. Time flies when we talk. Okay. I'll translate that into Chinese and then I'll send it to you. The
Thank you.
that link. Thank you so much
Take
again.
care, everybody. See you next week.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom.